So we're talking about cycles. We're talking about Yahweh putting things in place, and we need to really start looking deeper into what those are, because we haven't really learned them. Some of you, I know, have learned them through reading and investigation and studying things. But this, I have tried my best to get them as clear as I possibly could, because it's out of our time, it's out of our calendar, it's out of our rhythm. So I really want you to, with me, to get into a new rhythm. I want you to see and feel and experience this new rhythm, because it's His and it's put in place the way He wanted it. So you'll see that it's mostly based on the 7. Do you know how many 7s are in Revelation? Which is the fulfillment of all time. I think there's about 40 something. I'd have to count them again. 7 trumpets, 7 angels, 7 this, 7 that. 7 is basically the cycle that He has set time in place around. So there's the first questionable one, the one that most Christians resent very much, is when you try to talk about the 7th day, the Shabbat. And I'm not going to try too much to explain it now, but that is the first cycle, and it's very clearly God's cycle, and you'll see it in the scripture later on. So when that 7-day cycle is in place, then another cycle begins. Then another cycle begins and recurs every 7 years. Have you heard of the Shemitah? Yeah. The Shemitah is basically the word. Shemitah means release. So this is the heart of God. This is what we are reveling in tonight. God's heart for people, that nobody is bound. Servants, slaves, whatever, were released after 7 years, so that nobody remained a slave or a servant unless they wanted to. Like the way we serve Him, we choose to be, what is it? They put the awl in the ear to show that you're permanently belonging, that you choose to serve. So this 7-year Shemitah was to let the ground rest. No sowing, no reaping, no tilling the ground. Just let it go. The same way as He provided manna in the wilderness for them to eat, but you had to gather it all for 6 days. The 7th day, if you tried to gather the 7th day, it would rot, because He had put a plan in place. This 7-year Shemitah is the ground would rest. You weren't allowed to work it, but whatever it produced, you, your servants, your family, the poor in the land, the neighbours, anybody could come into that field and eat that produce. And He said that there would be enough the following year, even though you haven't sowed and tilled the ground, there would be enough for everybody. That's God's provision. He never wanted any poor. He never wanted anybody to do without. His economy is giving and receiving, giving and receiving. This whole profit-making system that we belong to is a Babylonian system, ruled by banks and things. I don't want to get into that now. That's another thing altogether. But I just want you to know this is the heart of our God, that there would be no poor, that nobody would do without. And that is that 7-year resting of the land. So this 7 days Shabbat is like a ceasing, the way God ceased creating on the 7th day of His creation. He says, I want you to cease from works on that day and remember and keep and remember. Keep visiting it, keep visiting, like His cycles. And the same with the 7 years. And when you've got that cycle in place, another cycle of 7 times 7, 49 years, another release that one was magnificent. If you'd had to sell your property or sell your land, you could go back and reclaim it for your family. That, like, you just wouldn't get that now. They don't even do it in Israel anymore. They've found ways to get round all those things, you know, because Israel, as it is now, is quite a westernized nation, really. And it's not living the way God wanted it to live. So they've all sorts of ways to get round these things. But they're deceiving themselves. So with each cycle, this is how he has put it together. This is the pattern that he's set in place. With each cycle, the rest or the ceasing, the release is more glorious.
That's the Jubilee, isn't it?
And that's the Jubilee. That 49 years is the Jubilee. Now, the way Yahweh put these in place, they should turn and return, and people should prosper, and there should be nobody lacking, if that's the way things were working.